Hello everyone and welcome back to ENR 153 car project tutorial videos. In today's video we'll be creating the bracket, which I believe is the last part in car parts 3. This part is not it's not too bad. It's pretty straightforward, right? So we have an L bracket, the same length, both directions, same dimension. There's two slots that, if you guys notice, everything is dimensioned off of one edge. So this is basically my 0 in the x direction, and this would be 0.18 in that x direction. This would be 0.53 with respect to my 0 edge. Again, same thing here. So we'll actually try to replicate this when we create the drawing. We'll dimension things a little differently, just to get more to get familiar with different ways to dimension things, to fully define things. So we have there's two holes, 0.129. There's also a 12 millimeter hole in my front face. So we'll start with the basic shape of the bracket, and then we'll go ahead and add the slots and the holes and fully define them. So it shouldn't be too bad. So let's jump right in. So I have SolidWorks open. I'm gonna go to File, New, just like we've done in the past, and it's a part file. So I'm gonna click OK. Double checking the drawing. The units are in inches, so it's IPS, inch pound second. And I'm gonna, just like we've done previously, edit document units. And let's change that to 3 decimal points. Click OK. We're gonna actually do something a bit different today. So we're gonna utilize the thin feature. And what that means is, I'm not gonna fully close the sketch. I'm just gonna draw lines, and that should be enough to fully define it. So let's start a sketch on my, let's do my right plane. Start a sketch. So I have my origin, and I'm gonna draw a line that's in the y direction, and draw another line direction, or in this case to the z direction. I'm gonna fully define both, so this would be 1.5. Since I want both sides to be equal, one thing to do here, instead of just going ahead and dimensioning that to be 1.5, the nice thing, if I go back and I want to change this to 1.6 later on or something like that, I have to change both. But one neat thing I can do is, if I delete this dimension, I can add a relation between these two lines. If I select this line, hold the Control key, select that line, and I'm going to add the equal relation. And what that does is, now it's fully defined, because what that tells SolidWorks to do is, hey, this line is related to this line. Utilizing the equal relation, right? So whatever dimension I put in for this, it's going to be the same for that. So if I change this to 2, both lines change. Okay, and go back to 1.5. Again, we're just throwing in different things we can go about doing things. Again, utilizing that design intent. Start thinking about, okay, what's the most efficient way to go about building this part? If I'm utilizing the same dimension, and I know if I want to change this in the future, and instead of adding an extra 2 or 3 clicks, I can just do it once. So again, start thinking about that design intent. Either way is correct, right? If you just add that, delete that equal relation and add that 1.5, that's totally fine too. So again, I'm not gonna close the sketch. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do extrude. And SolidWorks actually knows that since I'm only using 2 lines, that it's gonna be a thin feature. So what I want to do, I want to convert it, right? I want my outside edges to be 1.5 inches. I want these edges that I drew to be my outside edges. So let's do this. Let's do mid-plane for here. Let's start here, and it's gonna be 2 inches. Also, my thin feature is that my thickness is 0.125. So again, I'm doing 2 things. I'm adding thickness in both directions. So I'm adding thickness in this case, X direction and Z direction, Z and Y. Click OK. Again, one way you could have done one about this is if you could have created that 2 rectangles and merge the 2 into an extrude boss. There's different ways you can do this. Again, start thinking about that design intent and realizing stuff like adding relations or utilizing thin features, stuff like that. Okay, so we have the basic shape already. What I want to do now is I'm gonna add the slots. So let's go to my top face. And let's start a sketch on that face. So in sketch tools, just like we've done stuff with circles, rectangles, there's straight slots or center point straight slot. Since I'm gonna fully define it later on, I can just throw, oops, I added that at an angle. I just wanted to keep that a relation toggled on. One thing I can do here is either create one and mirror the other one if they're centered with respect to that center line, or we can just create 2 and dimension them. So again, I said I'm going to utilize the same dimensions from how the drawing was dimensioned, right? So I have this is going to treat this as my 0 and then dimension everything with respect to that edge. Before I do that, I want to add thickness to both 1.70. So both slots are wide, 0.170 wide. And then let's go ahead and dimension them. So this point with respect to this edge is 0.180. I'm going to do the same thing here. That's 0.530. I'm going to do the same thing here. Everything again with respect to the same edge. Move this in. Sorry about that. Let's try to move this dimension in so you can see all 3. That one is 1.470. And we're just gonna add the last one in that direction, and that'll be my 1.820. Again, it's just a different way you can go ahead about dimensioning things. So let's add a relation between these 2 lines. Let's add that vertical. Oh, actually, in this case, it's horizontal. I'm just looking at it. It will be the horizontal relation. So what that means is these two are related. If I move one, the other one moves. They're on the same axis. And this dimension from treating this edge as my 0. So this point would be my 0, 0. So that's 0.563. Again, fully defining those slots. Again, you could have done it differently, right? I could have found this distance and then made these two edges equal, right? If I know both slide sides are the same. And then just set the difference, the sides. If I know that it's the same distance between this edge or the leftmost edge and the rightmost edge to that center arc, I can create one slot and mirror about the center line. Again, there's different ways you can do this. I just want to utilize a new way to give you guys an idea that you can dimension things and fully define them in different ways. So let's go ahead and do an extrude cut. So it's going to be a through all. Click OK. So we got that done. So let's jump into my front face. I'm going to start a sketch. Normal 2 again. If you hold the control key and press 8, it takes you normal to that selected face. Let's see. I have my. Let's start with the features. Actually, I don't need. I didn't need to start a sketch. I'm gonna utilize the whole wizard in this case. So I have my 12mm hole. So I can switch to metric or keep it inch. It's gonna be show decimal values, and it's 0.472. Which is, so let's switch to metric. It's going to be a drill size. Show custom sizes. So it's going to be a 12mm. It's going to be a 12mm hole. Positions, select this face. Again, I want to add that vertical relation. I'm going to smart dimension it. So again, it moves. So what I want to do is select that point, hold the control key, select my origin, add that vertical relation. That means I can only move it up and down now, but not left and right. Still under defined, so let's go ahead and fully define that. And that dimension is 0.614 inches. Click OK. It's fully defined. Click OK. So that looks good. Again, let's go select this face. Let's go back normal 2. I'm going to do the same thing again for these two holes. Let's jump into hole wizard. Let's jump into NC inch. And it's 0.129. So number 30 is the closest. I'm just gonna input what I want, which is 0.129. and I'm going to go to positions, right? So I fully defined my whole type. It's a number 30, but again, I want to utilize what I, excuse me, called out on the drawing. Which is the 0.129, and condition is through all. Again, I'm done fully defining the whole type. Let's jump into the positions tab. I'm going to select this face. And I'm just going to place these two holes and fully define them. So again, adding that horizontal relation, right? So if I move one, the other one moves with respect to it. They're both on this same axis. Let's do, so let's fully define them. So treating one edge as my 0, 0 again, like we've done on the other, on the fully defining the slot. So this dimension in the drawing is 0.390, and that dimension is 1.610. So we defined them in the x direction. Now let's define them in the y. So this dimension is 0.890. That should be it. So I have all my holes fully defined. I like to just rotate and double check that everything looks similar to what the drawing calls out. That looks good. One thing I want to do is I know I have to add a radius. So 0.125 in 4 places. So if I go to fillet, again it's a fillet, and it's 0.125. I'm gonna add that, so I have my full preview toggled on. I'm gonna add that to where the drawing calls it out, or on my outside edges. Right, I want to make sure those edges have a fillet; they're not sharp edges. Click OK, and let's go in and define my material. So it's 661. So if I go aluminum alloys, 6061, hit apply. And now let's go to file. Gonna go to properties, summary, put your name in the author, go to description. It's gonna be 1/8 inch by 1/8. Missed one here. 1/8. Well, actually, it's 1/8, so that's the thickness by 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches. $60.61. Aluminum. Okay. And we're all set. Thank you for watching.